So, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we would like to bring our first speaker of the day, and this is none other than Pankaj Rai. Let me briefly introduce. Many of you know Pankaj Rai. Pankaj Rai is Group Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Aditya Birla Group. In his professional career spanning 25 plus years, Pankaj has worked in the financial services industry in marquee organizations like ICICI, G Capital, and Standard Chartered Bank. Previous to joining ABG, Pankaj worked as Senior Vice President Strategy at Wells Fargo Bank. Pankaj will talk about thinking beyond realms of AI. Thinking beyond realms of AI. This would be a 6 minutes talk. Over to you, Pankaj.
Hello, everyone. Today, I thought let me talk about what I would call going beyond AI because this AI is the topic for the discussion, and I think everyone is talking about AI. So I thought let me take something beyond that. So what I'm going to do is just take a few examples of what's going on, what's the need, and how should we start thinking about it. So let me begin by articulating what I think is, the need of the hour from CXOs, leaders, businesses, whatever. I think what I see commonly across are two things that everyone wants. It's either customer delight or business transformation. And in my mind, at a very high level, the first one is really related to the front end, where you are, helping customers get a great experience. Cost or some of those things may or may not be in your mind, but you're just focused on customer delight. Business transformation is a way of course, not just ensuring customer delight, but a way of transforming your business to also get efficiencies, become faster, quicker, all of that. So to some extent, the first goal is more front ending. The second goal is sort of back end, although it has an impact on the front end. So to me, those are the two goals that all businesses are trying to achieve. Now let's take a few examples of our daily life on how some of these goals play out, what is the impact, and so on and so forth. I look at the hospitality industry. I mean, these days, by the way, I'm in a job that requires a lot of travel. I've been traveling using airlines, using hotels. We've all heard of Ritz-Carlton, Southwest. I mean, these are the companies which are known for customer delight. So when I look at what those guys do, I mean, they try to do a lot of small things all the time. I don't know how they get that, but they tend to delight me with some things which it appears to me is not necessarily driven by any AI, but some wacky individual thinking about something interesting to do to satisfy my interest. Sometimes it seems to be based on something that they know about it, but many a times it's their own enthusiasm through which they create that delight. So that's what I see on the hospitality side. Things look more touchy-feely over there to me. If I look at the transportation industry, and we've all seen Tesla change the business model. So to me, that is more like a transformation of the business model to provide transportation to you. I mean, it's the same sort of car. It's just that it's designed, delivered differently, and so on and so forth. So that's the other example, which is more related to a business transformation. And frankly, my third and the favorite example is Amazon, which tries to do. It's a category defying company in my mind. It does all of those things together. It keeps transforming the business model. It delights customers, and all of this go hand in hand. So I think these are the things that we see out there as examples of delighting customers, creating business transformation, and you can determine where is AI used, where it is not used, and so on and so forth. But that's just to give a sense of what we are talking about. What is the business is doing. I think the other thought that I want to bring up is, which is related to the startup ecosystem, because that seems to be the biggest thing happening all around us. And the common theme that I see in most of these startups is pivot. And to me, pivot is nothing more than reframing a problem. So you started doing something, and then you realize you need to do something different. So you have reframed the problem and trying to sort of solve it differently. So why am I telling you all this story? What's the point of all of this? So in my mind, the point is that the real source of competitive advantage has started to shift, at least in my mind, from solving a problem which was using past data to reframing the problem and trying to find a different problem to solve. It still will require some past data, but to my mind, I think reframing a problem is becoming a source of competitive advantage versus solving an existing problem using better techniques and so on and so forth. So hence, to me, AI, which is a problem solving technique, which is looking at past data, is quite useful, necessary, but perhaps not sufficient to achieve the twin objective that I spoke about initially of customer delight and business transformation. So that's the idea that I'm trying to bring about, that, while we focus a lot on AI, I think it's necessary, but not necessarily sufficient. So, how do we, therefore, in my mind, develop ourselves to that question which I raised about pivoting? How do we keep reframing and pivoting ourselves? Because that's probably the best way of thinking about how do you go beyond AI. Now, this is where I was reading a book very recently by a guy called John Deutsch, which is called The Beginning of Infinity, and I liked a framework that is spoken about over there, which I wanted to share and which I thought was quite relevant in helping us think about this question of reframing and pivoting. I think what he really argues is that the world has science and the world has religion. Religion is all about faith and belief. Science is all about doubt. Now, if we are in the scientific area, we should always doubt what is there and try to improve what is out there, because all science does is provide an explanation, and that explanation can always be improved. A Newtonian explanation can be improved through a quantum explanation, which can then be improved to something else, maybe a string theory or some such thing. So I think the framework that he provides as a scientist is that our job should always be to criticize and conjecture. So criticize is all about, what I have is probably having some deficiency, it can be improved. And conjecture is, what is it that it could be? Provide an alternate hypothesis, which hopefully is a better one than before. So I would sort of leave all of you with this thought that while all of us, and we've been using AI and other techniques to solve problems, can we start developing and honing the other part, which is really defining the problem? And to me, the two C's of criticism and conjecture seem to be a good framework to think about how do we keep reframing, repivoting, and figuring out a better problem that is worth solving versus the problem that we are solving now. Hopefully this was useful to all of you. Thanks a lot, and see you all soon.
Thank you so much, Pankaj, for your great insights. As usual, you have a knack of bringing a lot of acronyms and rightfully, I would say, apt acronym. I think the first, if I just summarize what Pankaj talked about, was this whole aspect about uh, the whole fundamental application of AI, and it's moved beyond, I would say, the regular mainstream kind of, I would say, definitions of POC. Now it's getting to the last mile of customer delight. So that's one. And second, it's transforming enterprises end to end. So digital transformation without the underpinning of AI analytics would be a very futile exercise. The other piece, what he rightly said as part of, I would say, the talk, is this whole criticism and conjecture, the pieces around how uh, enterprises should look at building decision making engines, and also at the fact it's also based on a lot of, I would say, aspect of how the decision making at scale can be achieved by the organization, and where AI can fit in as part of overall embedded value chain.